So we said tonight we're going to talk specifically about which chords, which were the ones we're going to look at?
Minor.
Minor, right. And we'd already talked about it before. Remember, we had looked at one before. And just to get the feel of it, thought we might pull out a few minor songs. So let's hop on YouTube and just listen to a few to get that sound. Let's see, where am I? Not Soldiers of Christ, not yet. But there is a minor in there. I want to show that one. But let's see. Maybe one of the most famous ones. I don't know if it's super famous, but some of the ones when people think of minor.
Flee as a bird to your mountain, thou who art weary of sin. Go to the...
All right. How many have heard that before? Few. All right. Yeah. And it's very much a minor song. It has that minor all the way through. And so let's take a look at our chord. This first chord we have, and it comes up again. What is this first chord? Let me get it more full here.
La do mi.
It's La Do Mi, and which one is that? It's a 6. That is correct. It's a 6. So let's go back and look at our chords and work our way through. Okay, so once again, we've memorized, I think, pretty much 1, 4, and 5, right? Can everybody see the chords here? Am I doing my screen right? Okay, so I think we've pretty much memorized 1, 4, and 5. At least we're supposed to. That's part of the homework. If you don't get the 1, 4, and 5, you're going to have a hard time following along with everything else we do. But it's time for us to also to look at some of those other ones. So we have, this is the 6 right here. So that's your La, Do, Mi. Okay? And that's the 6 based on the La. La, Do, Mi. So if you look back at this song, that's what we have at the beginning. La, Do, and Mi. And a funny thing happens. We're not going to talk too much about writing in minor completely because that would be a whole nother thing and probably like for the next, more advanced class. But what happens is your La becomes the most important note. Remember in other writing, Do is our most important note, right? But if you look at this, La is going to become the most important note.
Go
if you look at the ending,
clear flowing fountain, where you may wash and be clean.
What's the ending note? Sorry, in the bass there, what's the ending note?
La.
La.
La, instead of Do, right? And this is going to be, again, our 6th chord. Now, the nice thing about this song, interesting, is right in the middle, it turns to major, and the feeling changes. See if you can tell when that feeling changes.
To your mountain, thou who art weary of sin, go to the clear flowing fountain, where you may wash and be clean. 5, for the avenger is near.
Did you catch it? Okay, so what did we move into here? What happens here?
So
One.
Now this is the 1, right? So now we're in that universe again, you might say, the happy major universe.
Avenger.
And it's a nice change on the fly.
For the avenger is near thee. Call and the Savior will hear
and we'll move back into the minor feeling.
He on his bosom will bear thee. sin. Oh,
All right, what is that one?
Ray, fa. That's a weird one.
Is that a 2?
Okay, yeah, that's it too. Yep. Although we'll talk about it later. It might have a different function here, but yeah, that's good to start recognizing that. We will be looking for 2. So let's take a look at that. There you go. Re, fa, and la. And so we'll be looking at 2s later. So basically, the minor chords, you've got your 6, you've got a 2, and then you have a 3, right? Those are the main minor chords that we have. So let's see. I was gonna maybe just call up one more. Let me see if the right song pops up. Ah, there it is.
who was Jeroboam, the son of Nebat? We barely talk about him anymore. He could have had a kingdom as wonderful as David's. Just like the prophet's robe, the kingdom was torn. 10 tribes were his to do with as he pleased. When Rehoboam spurned the elders' counsel, he gave into his fear that people far and near would worship in Jerusalem town still.
Okay. What's the feeling you get from that song? It's fast but minor, huh? What do you get from it?
I get like tragic or unfortunate.
Oh, okay. And how many know about Jeroboam? You know, a lot of people don't, which is very interesting. If you study the Old Testament, you will run into his name a lot, but a lot of people don't know about him because he had, as it said, he had an opportunity to have a kingdom as great as David's, and he blew it. So a lot of people don't know about him because he blew it. So minor kind of fit the song. Just want to play you something very interesting at the end.
Human teaching, beware of those who rise
Listen
up
for the last
unopposed,
chord.
scratching people's ears with human teaching. Religions that will fail, all to no avail, while God's true faith lives on unceasing.
What happened at the end?
It turned major.
Yeah, it turned major. And later on we might look at that again. That might be something more advanced to look at, but the feeling turned from minor to major, and it gives you a different feeling. So we've talked some before about minor, the kind of feeling it gets, and today we mostly want to talk about where it shows up. Often, well, first of all, we talked about in general, usually we don't get minor. And I actually went back to listen to a bunch of songs to I was trying to think, where am I going to find minor? And some of them popped up in my head right away, but it was kind of hard because, as we said, most church songs are happy, joy, joy. And what are they then? What are the chords?
1, 5,
1,
and
4,
4.
5.
1, 4, and 5. So that's what you're going to find in most hymns, all over the place, right? And so you have this choice. Do I want to occasionally throw in one of these minor chords? And one of the big questions is, do I want it to be a big event? Like, yes, that's there for a reason. And let's listen to one we listened to last time because it was just so great. Let me get on here. And it's the one that I just recently translated, written by a young man in Mexico. He did such a great job on this song. And let me just leave it here. I need to grab something, and we'll listen to this one and look for those minor chords. See if you notice when they come up.
Just like a body, just like a body with members, each with a purpose, working together. We are His body, each one with many talents to serve the Savior. Oh Lord, transform me now, put my gifts to work in your service and renew.
So, did you catch when it happened there? When do we get our first minor chord? Let's listen to it. First of all, we said up till there, we've got unison lines, right? Back and forth.
And
harmony's going to start.
Transform me now, put my gifts to work in your service.
Okay, did you catch it? When do we get the minor ones?
The first syllable.
What's that?
Service.
Service, right? Okay, so
The
let's,
first syllable of the service.
yeah, service. So let's analyze service. And again, we said this maybe is not a sad thing that we're singing, but it gives it seriousness, gravity. So let's see if we can. I don't know if I've got the notes big enough. Let's see. From there, can we tell? What do we have here? We're just going to get used to recognizing them. And you remember, what gives you a big hint?
The bottom part.
The bass, right? So what is it built on? What's our bass here?
Right?
Ray?
Okay, that's Ray. So out of our scale, what is
So
Ray?
it's a 2?
It's a 2.
It's 2.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a 2. We've got Ray, Fa, La. That's a 2. And then what is this one?
Is that a 6?
That's a 6. Correct, because we have a La on the bottom, right? So La, and then the next one in between here would be the Do, La, Do, Mi. Do's up there. La, Do, Mi. Okay? So we're starting to get used to to see them and to recognize them. The big one that we looked at last time that I thought is just such a great moment is, where is it? This one. Let's listen to.
As a living sacrifice, present yourselves unto God.
Did you hear that minor chord at the end? And what is it?
6.
It's a 6, right? And something we're going to learn is a great thing that it can be used for also is to make things more interesting. So I don't know if you noticed, we basically got the same thing twice in the melody. Da 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 da. Basically the same thing twice, slightly different because of the words, right? But what makes the difference?
Harmony.
It's the harmony. So the first time we have, what chord do we have here? Got it. You should recognize that.
1.
That's our 1, right? Do, mi, so. That's our 1. So then the second time, Brother Adriel did a great job on this. The second time he has the same exact thing, but then you end something somewhere else. And sometimes we even call this a deceptive cadence, depending on how much it really sounds like it's about to go to 1, and then all of a sudden we go to 6. And that's what happens here. So if you notice, actually the same thing, the soprano and the alto have exactly the same thing, but we move somewhere different and we get this 6 chord. And that's one of the great things the 6 chord is for. It will make something different. So even if the melody is the same, makes it different. So let's listen to it just one more time. And it's really a great chord. Sounds nice.
As a living sacrifice, present yourselves unto God.
Now the minor. Okay?
As your spiritual service to Him.
And he threw in one more here. What is this one? It's a 3. Mark got it right away. Okay, and usually the bass will tell us. Not always, but usually the bass will tell us, right? And Mark is either holding up his hand or saying a 5, which is incorrect.
No, I'm holding up my hand.
I love doing that to my kids in class. I'm like, what is that? Raise your hand. No, it's not a 5.
We do this in school. I don't know if you see that.
That's a 1. Now that's a 6. All right.
The bass gives it away, right? Because it's just the order of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So we call that, yeah, we're getting into fancier ideas now. We call that root position when the bass is the root. And it usually happens. There are some times when, and that's one more thing we might look at in our next couple weeks, there are sometimes when, like we've looked at it before, when the, you know what, let's just skip to this really quick and then we'll come right back here. So,
So most of the time, like if it's a fa in the bass, it's a 4, right? Most of the time,
almost all the time, right? Almost all the time. So let's look at just a quick example. We looked at this one. Right? It's one of the first ones.
We praise thee, O God.
Okay, so what happens to the bass at the beginning? We praise thee, O God. If you look at the top, this is actually a 1 all the way across, right? Oh no,
there's no shape notes.
we did
It's
this
kinda
last
hard to-
time.
There's no shape notes, yeah.
What happened to us last time? You know what?
Yeah.
Let me do
I'm like G in the bass. I'm like, okay, it must be 1.
everything's soul. There we go again. Forgive me, you know, if you know what it is. Okay, here. Shape notes. Yes. Okay, good.
On Zion's glorious song.
Okay, so what happens at the beginning? On Zion's glorious. All the way across, if you look at this, we have a 1 chord. Do, mi, sol. But for fun, because it sounds nice, the composer decided to make the bass notes move. Zion's glorious. And they're moving on all the different notes of the 1, right? So it's not really changing the chord. But this is just to answer your question. I always like to make sure you know there's exceptions, right? So usually, almost all the time, a lot, the root is at the bottom, the bass note. But occasionally, like we look at this one, right? Is this a 5 chord? No. So the best way to put it is the bass will usually point you where you need to go. And then if you look at the bass and you're like, wait a minute, this is not a 5 chord, then you have to do a little more analyzing. But the bass is usually your first hint. Yes.
So is it like a good rule? Like my eye, if like for that song, I'm immediately looking at the lead. Is that like your step 2 is check with the lead to see if it's a 1 or in that case, a 3?
Because it's harmony check with everything. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, if you see something out of place. So basically, if when you're analyzing something, and our class has not been too much on analyzing, it's more like, doing it, the application of it. Me and Brother Benjamin were talking about this the other day, texting each other that because he said he's going to start looking at a bunch of songs. And I said, yeah, that's great. That is like the way to study harmony, And as you guys do that, if you ever are looking at a song and you come across something you don't understand, you'd like to learn, feel free to text me or something, and I could tell you what it is. So when you're analyzing, we would go over all the exceptions and everything, right? Instead, we've been going over more of the more basic stuff so that you can use it right away. But yes, when you're analyzing, look at the base first, then look up, and if it all makes sense, boom, you got it. That didn't take long, right? If it's not what you think it is from the base, then analyze all the notes and say, what really is this based on my triads? Which one is this actually? And then if after that you run into an extra note or a note that doesn't seem to work right, that is when you might be working with something like a seventh where it has 4 different notes, something like that, and we'll get into that. So that's your way of analyzing. Does that answer your question well? All right, cool. So let's get back to, where were we? And where were we in the song?
Renew my soul again.
Really quick, what's going on here? We looked at these last time.
Suspension.
Suspension, I love them. So again, if I were to look at the bass, what would I say this chord is? Just the bass. What would I think it is? It's a sol, so I think it's what? A 5, right? But then I notice, well, these 2 notes are right next to each other. That's not a 5. And always a good thing to, if you see that, is see where it's going. Because usually these things are you can understand them easy if you go backwards. So what is it going to? What chord is this? That's your 5.
It's a 5.
That's your 5. So what happened? I took the middle part of the 5, I moved it up here, and that's what's called the suspension, right? You cause this tension, and then boom, it resolves back into a regular 5. Suspensions are beautiful.
My soul again has a living sacrifice. Present yourselves unto God as your spiritual service to Him.
So right here, this minor, we said that's a 3, and this is breaking all the rules. So what rule is it breaking here? Let me see if I can find it. I have a bunch of these, not that
Parallel
one.
octaves.
Parallel. Yeah.
Parallel octaves, parallel fifths. So let's see, avoid parallel octaves, right? Avoid parallel fifths, try for contrary motion. And what happens here? None of that. And it sounds great. It is a more modern sound. It's a little different. So you go from the 4 here straight to the 3. Straight to the 3. And I think it sounds really nice in this little spot. That's one of the kind of things, again, that you might discover. I'm going to teach you some of the basics about minor, but you might find some of these little moves that that you will like. Okay? Any questions on that? All right. Oh, Benjamin, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, as a bass, whenever I see a mi, I usually think, oh, that must be now I know that it's a minor chord. Before I just knew, okay, that's going to be some different harmony, because bass is normally just do, sol, fa.
Right. Okay. So once again, if we look at, and that's a good point, the bass, there's so much in it. So if you look at the chords that we said we use the most. Happy, joy, joy. 1, 4, 5. What is the bass going to be singing all the time, right? Do, fa, so. And that's what we looked at from the beginning. So absolutely right. When Brother Benjamin says, I see a me, that's not one of those notes. Something different is going to happen. And we might look at a couple other those possibilities, but one of them is that you're about to sing a 3. Here comes a 3, right? And Benjamin, probably the same thing when you see a la, right?
Yeah.
So, something's happening. Something's going to be a little bit different. And even when you see a re. So again, sometimes it moves by them real fast, like going 1, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that, just a quick move. But if we're going to sit on the 2 or the 3 or the 6, that's when we know something is happening. All right, I wanted to look at really quick, Soldiers of Christ, Arise. And let's see if you can catch the minor.
Soldiers of Christ, arise and put your armor on. Strong in the strength which God.
Did you get it yet?
Strong.
Strong, yes. Okay, so what do we have right here? That's our 6.
6.
Mm-hmm. La, do, mi. And it's just a great chord. And I like to sing it a lot stronger than it happens to be here. It depends on how you interpret it, right? But I love that moment because we've been in major all the time. And then just for a moment here, right? Just this long, we get the minor. Strong in the strength which God supplies. It's really a nice moment. So let's go back and hear it.
Soldiers of Christ, arise and put your armor on. Strong in the strength which God supplies.
So it's a very dramatic chord in just the right. Strong in the strength which God's. And then as soon as we get here, we're back from to a 5 to a 1, right? Very simple stuff. But that 6 chord just gives it that little bit of drama. And I'm trying to think of any others that we'd want to look at, but I think kind of I'd like to jump into some of our songs and just give you some possibilities as to how you could use that. Let's see, here we go. So let's look at Brother Benjamin's latest iteration and let's listen to it. Now it's kind of hard to find the minor here, but he's already using a great minor. Let's just see if you happen to hear it. We'll go back to the beginning and see if you hear a slight trip in a minor, just barely. Okay, did anybody hear it?
I heard him go to the 2 briefly.
Okay, so where did it go to the 2?
Measure 2.
Okay, so that is actually not a 2. So this is one of these cases when we'll look at it, and a 2 would be fa, re, fa, la, and it's not that.
Re, so, la. Or so, fa. Okay.
Yeah.
How about
and so what this is, it's a 5/7.
maybe measure 7 when he said from violence?
4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, right here. Okay. And this is one of those times when the bass won't tell it to you, but so let's just take a look. We have a fa, right? So we think it's a 4. Fa, la, do. Nope. What is it?
Fa, la, re.
Fa, la, re. And this happens quite a bit in common harmony. It still sounds like a 4 to us. It sounds very much like a 4. But especially usually because of the what do you call it, the melody. We have that re there, and we want it to sound like a 4, but because of that re, it has a slightly different sound, because actually this is a what?
2.
2.
2 is correct. So a 2 gives us our, it's kind of out of order, but we have our re, fa, la. Re, fa, la. So these are harder to see. If you don't see it right away, that's okay. But I'm just pointing them out because as you start to analyze and see hymns, this is a perfect example here because I've got a re here. Does that fit in the 4 chord? No, it doesn't. But I'm gonna make it work anyway, right? And it sounds good because it is a good chord, and it also sounds like a 4. It sounds a lot like a 4 because we have that bass there. So let's see. Let's listen to the whole thing again, and then I have a suggestion, which may or may not happen, but this is the idea for how to work with these. Going to the 4, great. All right, so here's the question that we can ask and may or may not do. Where might there be a little amount of drama there? And also, let's look here. On this ending here, right? What is the same as before? Actually, everything's the same as before, right? Which is very common in songs. And it's great, as we said, that helps us memorize songs. There's a lot of repeating. Remember when we did our melodies? Write a phrase, write something slightly different, but mostly the same, then maybe something a little different, and then go back and repeat. It's just a lot of repeating, right? But one thing you can do is you can look for one spot, and usually it's a long note, right? And throw in, usually the one that would be different would be the 6. So where is our long note? Where would we have an opportunity to throw in the 6? We don't want it at the end because that will totally change everything. We'll turn it to minor. But where do we have the opportunity to throw in that 6?
The right before it goes full. I don't know what the F stands for, but that's what I've always thought.
Okay,
It as.
yeah, okay. So
Right
here,
before
right?
that one.
Right? And so I'm just going to change a couple notes. This is not yet like all done, but I want to hear what this one would sound like. This is just to ask myself, you know, and Brother Benjamin could ask, is this something you want to do or not? So what do I have to do to this note here? I brought that one down to la. What do I have to do to this one?
That'd be la as well, right?
Right, there you go. Perfect. So let's just listen and just listen to the sound on that long note and just see if you like it. And either way, see what it sounds like, because this is how we make those slight differences. Okay. So first of all, what does Brother Benjamin think? Because it's up to him, and you can like go back and forth and do it over and over, and you know, try both ways. But what did it sound like to you?
I thought it sounded pretty cool. You know, it's unexpected, and so it's like, whoa, What was that?
Aha. Okay. So we've already had this before, right? Da 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 da. Whoa, something different happened there. Same but different, right? So let's listen to it again. All right. How does it sound like to the rest of you? Can you hear that something different happened there? Okay. What do you think of it? How would you describe it?
I really like it. I think it leads into it more. To me, it sounds more powerful.
Yes.
Which goes with like the whole feeling of the battle of 1 Samuel 22.
Great. Yeah. And I always get this feeling when you go down from 1 and then you drop 1 7, right? Do do ti la. It just makes it so deep. It drops into something very, very deep. And so, yeah, this is an example of how one tiny little change, nothing big, right? And the next thing, I won't do too much with it right now, but the next thing is we just gave ourselves another puzzle to solve. Because once you do something like that, now let's see, I have 2 T's here. I don't know if I want that. It might work more or less, but you're going to have like a whole nother maybe possible sometimes puzzles to solve. One puzzle I want us to look at right now because it will help everybody and some of the things they do. But that's one of the first things I decide, especially on these long notes. Do I like the sound? And I love it. I think it's great. Benjamin actually said it's cool. So good chance we're going to see this in a song. Very possible, right? The main reason we're doing this is so you understand it's something you can throw in there. And notice, did we write like 6s everywhere? You know, a few songs have that, but not many. Usually it's like, just throw it in there. Aha, I have a chance. That sounds like one good moment right there. Just like the soldiers of Christ arise, but you're strong in the strength, which strong in the strength. I love that moment. It's a great moment. So let me just talk really quick about one of the things that I would solve here. If I go down here, then I would take the bass down here. It's a little bit big of a jump to go back up here. It's doable, but usually what happens if you go down to La, then you're going to go down even further to Fa. Same note, but an octave lower, right? Then what would we probably do with this note?
Keep it. Make the basses
There you
work.
go. Right. Let me just listen to it. I want to sing it. That's gonna be fun. Cried out helplessly to my. I should be able to do that, but anyway, you know, my mom was a math teacher, and she taught me a long time ago. She's like, tests are boring. Look at the wrong answers and laugh at them. So I think that would be very, very difficult for anybody to sing and sound funny. What would you do with this? Okay, I see down. So same note. We're just going to go down, right? Still a so. And now this whole thing is going to sound deeper. The ending will sound deeper. Doesn't sound deeper with my voice. But anyway, you get the picture, right? What were you thinking, Mark? Obviously, you have great feeling on this.
I'm just talking with Nellie and telling her the joke you said about your mom teaching you to laugh at the wrong notes.
All right, good. Yeah, I think if we kept it, as Abigail said, being funny, that it would sound funny, yes. But this, so again, question, Brother Benjamin, what do you think so far?
I think it sounds good. I'm just wondering about that low fa.
Exactly.
Some
Yes.
some basses could hit that, but not all of them, I would imagine.
Right.
So
So
that could be a problematic note.
So we've had this, we brought this up before in an idea on all of our songs. Well, usually the thing that we're looking for is to stay within the staff, right? For which two voices? Which two voices did we say we usually want to stay in this? What did I say? Did you see those balloons come up?
Yeah, very
I,
festive.
I've done that. Did that happen in this class before? It happened in some other class, and like,
Yeah.
that's right, way at the beginning, huh? What did I say?
Peace.
What did I say?
Peace.
Peace?
Peace like a river.
Is that what he said?
Something like
All
I
right.
don't know. It didn't happen that time.
I don't know what it is. That's just too weird. Anyway.
Yeah, you said the bass is something that we've got to look out for, and was it the alto line? Like you don't want to go too low for the altos.
Yes. Okay. So anyway, it's not the altos. Altos can drop below the staff pretty well. Tenors often go up above the staff. So we just said it's not alto and tenor. So it's what two voices?
soprano
Bass
and
and
bass.
soprano.
Soprano and bass. Generally, it's just a general rule. Like we sometimes go a little higher or lower, especially a little lower sometimes a soprano, and the bass sometimes higher. But generally, we want the soprano and the bass to stay on the staff, within the lines and spaces of the staff. So exactly like Brother Benjamin said, this is getting a little low. So how do we solve that?
And I guess I could transpose the whole thing.
Right. And it sounds like, whoa, that's a big deal, but it's actually not because it's the computer. So it's pretty great. So we're going to go over how to do this again. We're going to select the whole song. Usually I would say first make a copy in case you accidentally delete the whole song, right? But hopefully you have plenty of copies of what's happening. And then, so we talked about it last time. You select the whole song, you go up to Tools and Transpose. And we're going to transpose to a key, right? And this tells us what key we're in right now. It's C major. And usually I want to move up to the next letter. So I'm going to click here. And what would be the next letter up?
D.
D. So I'll go to D. Oh, and by the way, they will ask closest or up. Usually closest is fine, but I want to make sure I'm going up. So I'm moving up to D. Okay, and ta-da! All right. So now that's fixed. Right? Where are we now? The bass, the lowest note of the bass is on the staff.
E.
Right? Tenors are getting a little high, but that's not horrible. And for those who are musicians, and by the way, let's take a quick look at the soprano. Does the soprano go off the staff? That's the highest we get, right? Very nice. If I was worried about that high tenor, which I'm not too much, but for the musicians among us, any ideas? Does anybody know what's slightly lower than D? I'll go back to Tools, Transpose. What is slightly lower than D if I wanted to lower it just slightly?
What is it? D
C
flat?
sharp.
C
D
sharp?
flat. D flat.
D flat.
Yeah, so flat means to bring it down just a half step. So if I put it into D flat, that note will be an F sharp instead of an F. You can't really see the difference. And that's fine because that means it's easy to read. But these flats, people who know about music will know that it's just one half step lower. And that would be my suggestion. Okay. So the reason that we're learning how to do this is if your song starts getting too low, you want to change keys. And usually the first thing you try and do is try and do it one letter up. Save a copy first. And then if you want my advice, or somebody who knows about music, you could ask. So my advice, Brother Benjamin, would be D flat. That would be my advice. Just raise everything up one half step. And so that's still pretty low, but it's getting there on the staff. That would be where I'd take it. Mark?
You had mentioned before, just for leading it, that it might be easier to do it in D because there's less accidentals. Are we still kind of going with that rule too, or how do we decide?
Let's go back to that. Okay, let's just look at the difference here. Look at it carefully now, and then look at it in D flat. So actually, you can't tell the difference, right? And yes, that's a kind of a good rule, less accidentals if there's going to be accidentals in the song. And also for musicians. But there's a lot of songs written in D flat. The greatest of them all, or the most known of all, there is a God, he is alive, D flat. So I don't know if I sang it in D flat right now, but yeah. So D flat is very, very common. So if it's common, usually pretty good. So, but the key for if you don't understand some of that stuff, just the key is you go to tools, you have to select the whole song, tools, transpose, and then your song might have been too high. If it was too high, you want to move it down. If it was too low, you want to move it up. And a general rule just to help you if you're new to it, move it up one letter. Whatever letter so right now it says it's in D, right? So if I don't know much about music, I'm going to go ahead from D flat, I could move it up to E. That's a little bit of a move, but from there you could try it out and see if it works on the staff. And then you could ask somebody who knows a little bit more about music their suggestion. All right, does that make sense? Let's listen to the whole song. And again, these are tiny changes that we might agonize about, but it makes a big difference to how the whole song sounds. So let's hear the whole thing again. What do you think? Yeah, it gives it depth, right? Just one tiny little change. But it gives it a lot of depth. And this 6 here goes really nicely into this 2 that is written with a 4 on the bottom, but it's a 2, like we said. And it just sounds very, very nice. I'm still a little worried about the tenor jump. There are some things that we might talk about. So I know you're working that tenor jump. So some things that we might look at. And just really quick, my ideas for what's coming up are maybe to just work mostly on our songs in the next 2 weeks, because it is going to be 2 more weeks. We have 2 more weeks to go. And it might be nice to come out with a couple finished products. So we may be concentrating quite a bit on just, just finishing up some of the songs and fixing some of those puzzles again in the harmony. Like I said, it's puzzles, putting the puzzles together. And one other thing is we may put some of this online if you guys agree. We can talk about that a little bit, but I think a lot of this has turned out really well in a way that it would be helpful to other people. And I thought the class went really well as far as that went smoothly. So we can talk about that after too. But the next few weeks then might just be jumping into our songs and kind of finishing up, like make the whole thing a lab, if that sounds good to you all. Does that sound good? So now is a good time maybe to ask. We didn't get too far into some minors. We could have talked a lot about them, but just start looking for them when you listen to your songs, you know, in the songbook, online, and just look for some possibilities. And that's an example. One little possibility, usually the 6, boom, changes, can really change everything. And then what else? Is there anything else? I just wanted to ask is there anything else people want to know before we start like making everything final and fixing puzzles? Is there anything else that you're interested in? There's a few more things in harmony that I'd like to teach. We'll see if we have time for, but is there anything else that you would like to ask specifically? Mark?
So I don't know if you want to get too far into this, but when I think of making songs, I think about singing them in church. And so could you talk a little bit about how, for those of us who want to sing it in church, how I've been told that like accidentals don't really matter. It's about how you start it, right? How you start the song. Is that just hitting the dough and just going from there? Or is there something more to it? Do you get what I'm asking?
So one of the first things you might be saying is, do you have to make sure that you are singing exactly the note on the page? Is that what you're saying? Like when you start, do you have
Right. Like, for example, I'll Fly Away sometimes is a little too high for me to lead.
Okay.
And people just tell me, pitch it a half step or something down. Is that kind of what we're working with here?
Right.
With the D flat?
Yeah. So then that gets into some other stuff, which is not songwriting. But yeah, first of all, what does the Bible say about it?
Nothing.
Always my first question, right? So if somebody starts a song and Mr. Music says, wait a minute, that is not a D flat, God doesn't mind. You know, that's very, because a lot of people don't even know what we're talking about. But if you have a lot of people having a hard time singing it, then we're going to have a little more time concentrating on the song and doing it decently in order. And that is when I just urge song leaders to, like, if you pitch that high, and for fun, I will give you a great example. And most people, when they hear this, are like, oh yeah, I know that example. Oops, come on. Know this song?
God be with you till we meet again. By his counsels God uphold you. With his sheep securely fold you. God be with you till we meet again.
Okay, this song is a trap. Let me tell you why. God be with you till we meet again. Bye. That's my highest note right there, right? What's my highest note?
La.
La. By his counsels guide uphold you. And I just love singing that as my high note. By his counsels guide uphold you. With his sheep securely fold you. God be with you till we meet again. Till we meet. You ever heard that happen before?
Yes. Yes.
So music is one of those things where we can kind of analyze. Okay, so my highest note was La. I can sing this really, really high and have no problem until all of a sudden I jump to what note here?
Me.
Me, not even me down here. It's me an octave higher. So actually it's a fifth, 5 notes higher. All of a sudden in the chorus, right? And so that's when there's a couple things you can do. There's the pitch pipe, and then, but still, whether it's the pitch pipe or it's just you like kind of eyeballing it, like, I know where I'm going to start. What should you learn from this song after that happens about 5 or 6 times?
Don't lead it in D flat.
Yeah, Depends if people can or not, but if it keeps going off the rails, start it lower, right? Just learn to start it lower. There's another one that's just a little bit of a trap.
Be with me, Lord's another one. Be with me, Lord. I cannot live without you.
What is this? I cannot bear, maybe a little bit. Yeah, not as big as this one. Yeah, but bear the load of life. Right. Here's this one is a backwards trap.
Come thou almighty King, help us thy name to sing.
So a lot of times people start it pretty low. Come thou almighty King, help us thy name to sing, help us to praise.
Praise.
Right. So only the deepest basses are hitting it, because if you start this low, and actually that's what I tell people to look at. You know, pitch pipes can be helpful. Just generally look where on the staff you are, right? This is a pretty high note, so I need to consider that what I'm about to sing is probably, I need to start higher. That's a higher note. Come thou almighty King, help us to praise, right? And sometimes it's a little counterintuitive, like going back to the God be with you too. Just kind of sounds funny to start that low. Till we meet again. But then you get to the chorus. Till we meet, and you got this full voice because you planned it, and that's exactly what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to start softer and hit at the right time. So anyway, that was not so much songwriting. But one of the nice things about music is when you learn it, you can understand why some of these things happen. You're like, aha, here comes another train wreck. But that's the way it is, and you can learn from it. And so when I do, singing workshops and stuff, I give a little bit of that advice. But it does show, if we were to go back to that, it does show the challenges if you write a song. So let's see, what actually happens is that's the lowest note in the soprano, do. And then the highest one is all the way up here on an octave higher plus a couple mi. And the general rule, again, I write songs bigger all the time. And I know that some people can sing them, some can't. It just depends. But you have to know that a general rule is about an octave, right? So whatever the lowest note the soprano hits, that's probably should be the highest note it hits too. And then stretch it a little bit, right? And this song is actually not too much of a stretch. It's just the trap factor that that surprises us. But general rule, try and have your song be about an octave, maybe one or two notes higher, more than an octave spacing. Because once you get into more, and Abigail's song has one more. Since we fixed it, let's see. Did we fix that? Let me pull that out. Here we go. So you might remember that Abigail's was really, really low. The soprano went low. And by the way, in harmony, you have that challenge too, because if the soprano's low, then where's the alto going to go? Everything gets really, really low, right? But we brought it up to F, and the lowest note now is one note. See that sol right there? That happens to be one note or a couple notes under the staff. It's doable. And then the highest note is here. So what ended up happening here is the space is like a bit more than an octave, but there's some songs that are like that. Do you know the song? And let me see if I can find it. Teach Me, Lord, to Wait. I wonder if that's on here. Do you guys know the song? Okay, so in this song, we have less of the trap factor because what do I know about this note? How am I going to start this song, even if I'm not using a pitch pipe? Where in my range am I going to start it? Way
Low at the bottom.
pretty far in the bottom, right? So this happens to be exactly the same key, same stretch. So did you catch already? We've hit the highest note. They shall run. Easy for us tenors and the sopranos, but if you're a really high soprano, but it's pretty high, but it works. There's a lot of songs that are like this. And then there'll be one more. Sorry, one big one. Teach me, Lord. Teach me, Lord. Right? And these you barely kind of throw away. But if you started this too high, this is going to be really hard to sing. Teach me, Lord, to wait. So that's about the biggest difference you want. Usually that's why I've written a lot of songs at F, because that's about the lowest note of the soprano, and that's about the highest that we usually sing. If you like, I can show you one more song like that, and then we'll go on break. One of my favorites. Let me pull it up here. It's one of my favorites for a reason. Let me see if I can find it. There we go, right here.
Blessed are those who die in Christ, resting from all their labors here.
So where's the high one?
Labors.
Yeah, do, way up there, huh?
For they shall find rest in death, having once died. Death no longer can reign over them.
And this rule is occasionally broken, that what happens right here is the soprano goes under the alto. And this rule is very occasionally broken. You'll see it a few times in songbooks, right? But that was the melody, and I didn't want to take the alto way down there. So do you see what happens? We have stem going up on this note, stem going down on that one. Can you see that one? Okay. And I'll tell you why I love this song. The melody comes from... See, can you see that there? Or can you see if we do full screen? Are you able to see it? Okay, the melody comes from who?
Chopin.
Right. Anybody know who he is?
A composer. I can't tell you what he does.
famous piano composer. He wrote a bunch of piano stuff. And this one is one of his most famous. It comes from what's called the March Funèbre, which is, everybody's heard it. It goes like this. Dun, dun, da, dun, dun, da, dun, da, dun, da, da. Have you heard that before? Some people have said maybe it's the most famous next to Beethoven. Da, 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 but dun, dun, da, 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 da. So, but in the middle of that piece, which is about a funeral, there's this beautiful melody. This is like the other part of it, the part that people don't know. And I've always loved it. And I thought, you know, in Christ, we don't have to worry about the dun 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 dun, 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 right? And so what is this song about?
Blessed are those who die in Christ.
Right, exactly. And so it goes on to say the words that we need to encourage each other with, right? Grieve not as those who have no hope. Where does it say that?
1 Thessalonians 4.
That's right. And then we believe, so we shall not precede the dead when the Lord shall give a call, right? The archangel's coming. The trumpet sound will announce that death no longer lives. So we got to play this at my grandma's funeral and a few funerals, and it was a real blessing, right? Beautiful song, beautiful melody, and I stole his melody and his harmony. All I had to figure out is where to put it in the four voices, right? But once again, it has the exact same range that Abigail's song has. Way up high, we got the do here, and then we have the sol dropping down. And that's fairly common for these big songs, for the soprano to be a little bit under, and then maybe at the top of the staff. So does that answer some of that questions, plus give us some ideas about how to write when we're doing our songs? And remember, you can always transpose. You can always try that out, and that will help. All right, any other questions before we break? And then we come back, we'll jump into our songs. All right, let's have a minor break. Not sad or dramatic, but a small one. Yeah, about 10 minutes. We'll be back. Sound good? All right.